calling the meeting to order at 6:42. Greg, I think you're gonna have to read it.
Okay. So welcome everyone to the Sixtown Regional Planning Board meeting. It is being held via Zoom in accordance with the acts relative to extenuating circumstances and this certain state of emergency accommodations signed into law on March 3rd, 2023.
This meeting's being recorded. And in the event that there are technical problems that like we can't do business, then we'll have to recess. And if we can't get it resolved, we will have to adjourn and reschedule the meeting. So Greg, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do a quick roll call vote and let's move right along.
Okay, Pat Shearer.
I'm here.
Deb Loomer.
Here.
Bill Tome.
Yes, here.
Linda Bella.
Here.
Jennifer Coffin.
Here.
Renee.
Here.
Deborah. Since we're now
Here.
on second Debs. Karen.
Here.
Michelle.
Here.
Okay, and with us we have our visitor is Mary Broderick, our facilitation consultant. Thank you. We're still waiting on Mark. Hopefully, oh, you know what? Let me just make sure he has I'm going to send him an updated link. It says Matt. Oh, here. Let me. Yeah, he just sent a link. He just sent a. Let me just send this to them.
So do we have any minutes to approve? Are we all set? Or should we pass over them?
Yeah, we'll have to pass over him.
Okay. And why don't we, while you're trying to let Mark go in, why don't we go down to Mary for a bit and she could, because I want to move this along. I have a huge storm going on here, so I'm surprised I can't even use my cell phone. So I called on the landline. So if we could jump down to Mary, and Mary, you could share some of the feedback that you received in our meetings. And why I'm talking, just to let you know, we do have a meeting scheduled in Irving on June 22nd at the school committee, parents, staff.
Okay, Alan, I've been collecting all the information. It's been very interesting. I think at each meeting we hear different perspectives. Lots of good questions. People have been pleased to be able to fill out a survey as well. So I don't have that information all right in front of me right now because this meeting came as a surprise to me this afternoon, but I will be writing it all up once we've completed these. We're, as you said, we're booked on the with Irving, and you're working on Vernon, right, Alan? Yeah, on the 22nd, we'll be meeting with the school committee in Irving. And Alan has reason to believe that that will be a widely publicized meeting, which we're hopeful about. I think we have been disappointed in the turnout, but again, people have had the opportunity to come and there's been somebody at every one of the meetings, so there have been some terrific ideas shared, and we look forward to getting those to you when we have these completed and are able to put it into a report and give you some themes that have emerged from it. So again, not a huge number of participants, but rich thinking has come out of it. And some of you have attended some of them, and maybe you have perspectives you'd like to share too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that it was disappointing with some of the turnout. We had a better turnout, I think, up at Pioneer, which was nice. At least on the for the parent meeting. The faculty meeting there wasn't a lot of faculty, unfortunately, but yeah, to emphasize what Mary said, yeah, we had some very good feedback and comments and discussion. But yeah, it's we even discussed, we're all open in terms of how do we reach more people and how do we engage more people. It's really difficult. And
I think one of the other themes that has emerged is the importance of being very careful about the communication about everything and ensure that the need for people to have the time to adapt to change is really honored. And that'll come through in what I write up about it, I'm sure. But yeah, there have been some wonderful participants for whom the field is this kind of change, their work field, who have offered some suggestions. I'm thinking of the Pioneer Valley parents, for those of you who are there.
I am a little bit concerned with the conversation about the low numbers. It sounds like it is definitely not representative of the larger body. If there was, it sounds like 20 people total out of the school districts. And it feels like maybe a little bit too late, but I just, the conversation was that maybe they didn't see it, or it was in an email that had other things in there.
Did you get the link I sent? Looks like it was about 4 minutes ago. I forwarded a link to you to see. Yeah, there was some difficulty in getting the link to work. So try. It should be.
I think he thinks he's on mute, but he's not.
I know he's not on mute.
Am I on? I'm not on mute. Sorry.
You're not on mute.
I was I was thinking the same thing a little bit in terms of, have people already formed an opinion without information, which is why they're not coming? Or do they think, this is never going to happen? Or do they think that if it's going to happen, it can happen quickly, and they don't understand the timeline of how long it would take to actually get it to happen?
I would go with C or D, and that they missed the information completely. I have a couple of my daughter's friends go to the Gil Montague School District, and I said, "Hey, you going to the meeting tonight?" And they were like, "I don't know, I didn't get it." And so then I, messaged Alan and I said, "Check your packet or check your email," and it did. It absolutely did arrive to them May 8th, I believe. But in the land of social media and everything else, I really feel like we could have prepared a better strategy to get the word out. I didn't see a blip of it anywhere else. And parents are completely inundated by what they receive from the school district as well. So I just, if I'm going to foresee the future and this happens, and then all of a sudden that is blasted everywhere, that it's actually happening, because that will spread like wildfire. People are going to be like, I had no idea. And it's just, yeah. I just foresee it being a little bit of an issue if we really didn't try our best. And again, I'm gonna point to social media. That's where people live and get notifications and all of that stuff. So.
Especially parents, right? Like in Gil Montague, it came from the superintendent like weeks before. So probably that's an email that people didn't even open. And if they did, it was long gone. Because especially elementary parents, you get like a huge stack of paper every day. So you sort of expect it, you know, maybe the superintendent thing and then social media and then a piece of paper the day before.
Well, maybe what we look at is, has everybody talked? Wait a minute, let me get on my phone. Hi, and so maybe what we talk about is, you know, once again, one blasted meeting in each of the school districts. That'll be for staff, parents, yada, 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 yada. And like you said, go through a real blitz of it's, you know, you have two different camps in terms of some parents want it far enough ahead of time so that they can plan accordingly. And then other parents like me, if I was one, to send it to me yesterday because I'll remember it's today. And so maybe what needs to be done, like you've said, is it's actually both ways so that we get both types of people who want the heads up and then, you know, once again, the updates of it's coming, you know, type thing.
Yep, I'm that person who puts a reminder on my calendar every day, something for a week before it happens.
I'm wondering, I mean, the proposal of creating a Facebook page, I think might be a good idea as long as we turn off the messaging. You know, that's what I don't want to do is have to be monitoring and making sure that people are, you know, being appropriate in terms of, so I think you can turn off the messaging right underneath.
The commenting, even if the school districts, I believe they all have a page, and if we could formulate a strategy where the, you know, committee members get a blurb, they post it, and then, you know, then people can redo it. But again, there was radio silence on any, I was just shocked to not see anything out of the people I'm connected with, that there's any conversation.
The other piece that I thought was truthfully unfair to the staff was that it was, not that it was unfair, but it's harder, is it wasn't during school time scheduled meeting. It was, once again, free time, end of the school year. And I don't think they had, to be honest with you, ample time to go, okay, this is important. I think they just went, it can wait till next year because I have too many things to do. And I think, at least from the staffs, if I was a staff member, I would have said, you just didn't give me enough time to get this put together. Once again, you know, if the superintendents are supporting it, then, or whatever, want to get the information out, misuse of the word support, then it needs to be done. They need to prioritize it too. And the superintendents need to prioritize it with their time if it's an important educational option that's out there, not always put it back on the staff. And as you know, Gil Montague is in a work to rule right now. And I believe it was starting, they all had their red t-shirts on that day. And I want to stand in solidarity, to be honest with you, with the Gil Montague staff in saying if they're at work to rule, then they're at work to rule. And that's just the way that needed to be. So in those terms, I would ask the superintendents to be a little bit more supportive.
And I feel like they might have also, if we had presented them with a communications plan, I fully believe that they would be on board with sending something, but, you know, perhaps they didn't want to push something out on behalf of this committee.
No, it was, they sent it out. It was give us their time. So if you have one faculty meeting a month, then they should be planning for giving us some time during a scheduled mandatory faculty meeting. Not all of this. Give us more time, teachers. Give us more time, staff. We're just going to bleed you dry. And that's what I say is if it's important to the superintendents, then they need to make an effort to give us planned time.
Yep, I hear that.
That's a nice thought, but I don't think we violated any of your exclamations there, honestly.
Oh,
We
no, he's
haven't-
been
we
violating
haven't- We
at
have
all.
not asked, for anyone's time other than what was a planned meeting. And that was well before the labor dispute. So I'm not in any kind of conflict with the labor dispute, but I don't agree that we've asked too much of anyone.
Hey, I just want to, Alan has something to say and I figure he's having trouble getting through with his audio, so I just put him on the phone. So go ahead, Alan.
So people can hear me? People can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's just a couple of quick things. Really good conversation. So I put in the chat that, I believe we should hire a consultant to engage more people in the fall and provide information to all the stakeholders. So we can do an RFQ and determine exactly how we are going to get all this information out to the public and share it. We also should form a subcommittee to work on this summer. And Jennifer, you've got a lot of ideas. I'd love to have you volunteer with some others. And we put our heads together, we brainstorm, and we come up with a strategy of how we're going to market this and get, whether it be posters, and libraries, and just getting the information out in multiple forms. And we haven't really done a good job in terms of a huge media blitz for like 3-4 weeks where it's, maybe something on the radio, in the paper, flyers, maybe a mailing, just use every avenue possible, including the TV networks in both of the communities. We could do maybe a live a presentation that captures everything we have and Mary's new stuff, and then we ask the TV stations to air that. So we take every avenue possible to get the information out, because we want to stay on track and make a recommendation in the fall, so that we can start to finish up our work and see what the towns want to do. I'm not sure if people had heard all of that, but Greg, can you nod, Greg, if it came through okay? Did you hear?
Yes, they're all thumbs up.
Okay. So maybe people could let you know, Greg, 4 or 5 people would be great.
Yeah.
To get that off the ground. And I think that'll be a fun thing, so that we can just start these little brush fires all through the communities and just have it go from multiple perspectives. Thank you.
Yeah, and Alan, I know Dorinda also chimed in the chat that she would be happy to get information on Facebook, so that would be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and Pat's got a lot of good ideas and still connections and understanding, the culture of Pioneer. And I agree with what Bill said. There have been multiple reasons. People can make choices, and we can't decide on what we want them to choose on participate or not participate. And I don't want to get into making excuses why they didn't. The fact is that we've got to really ramp that up so that we can look ourselves in the mirror and say, we put in the best effort possible, and here it is. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, well, why don't we move on, since Mark and Matt have arrived. Welcome, both of you. Hopefully they're not having any difficulties with their connections. And they can speak to the awarding of the grant, and we can open it up for discussion and questions regarding the deliverables. But it's nice to have you both back.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, and thanks for coming. And so, Mark, why don't do you want to start off? Maybe you can introduce yourself, because we do have some new members, and
I see some new faces. Yeah.
Go ahead and give a little background in terms of your experience, and same with Matt, and then we can open it up. Thanks.
Sure. I'm Mark Abrahams, president of the Abrahams Group. I think we've been on 3 previous studies with the planning board. And I'll have Matt introduce him. Then what do you want me to do? Talk about the scope? Okay, Matt.
Hi, the Abrahams Group as well. Good evening, everyone.
So what I need a day to do in Excel, Matt could do in an hour. So hopefully you'll get to work with him. Our scope is rather straightforward this year. To take the two regional budgets, combine them together, eliminate the salaries and the fringe benefits, add back salaries and fringe benefits from a combined schedule, adjust that for any savings in a combined central office, then apply common revenues and get to a amount to be assessed, and then run, I think it's about 6 different assessment scenarios. That in brief is our scope. Did I leave anything out? Okay.
Jordan and Joanne are getting, those documents together to get to you to expedite things. And it's really nice to have the business administrator. I don't know if you know a little bit about Jordan, and he's excellent and very committed to trying to provide information. So I think you'll enjoy working with him as well as Joanne in this venture. I think that one of the difficulties or part of this process is it's not a matter of just adding, the new salary schedules and so forth. I mean, the new, amounts that teachers are making now, but it's also going to involve a step that we only did a little piece of before, which is for you to look at the salary schedule in both districts, take a look at where people are that are off the schedule and how long they, have been off the schedule, look at their education, look at which step they're on, make sure no one is losing money, and then literally create a new salary schedule and populate it with, to the best of your abilities, so that you have now a comprehensive one district schedule, and then, that would be part of this process. The other thing would be to take a look at the benefits of both active and retiree employees, and what plan would they likely migrate to have at least a comparable benefit package, that they presently have. Again, active and retiree. And we understand, that that's subjective, but err on the side of caution when you're doing that, so that they're as close as possible. And if a plan gives them a little bit more, but it's likely the one they would probably gravitate to, then that would be the one that you use. So with that information, you would tweak the budget and then go from there.
Correct.
And you may have said that, and I may have missed it. I apologize.
Alan?
Yes.
Can I add that Mark talked about the reduction of central staff, but that the workup that he does not include any loss of staff any other place yet?
Well, in terms of central office, my expectation, and people can weigh in on this, but my expectation is that it's always been considered that we've looked at, what the efficiencies would be. So that would certainly have to be streamlined. We don't need, 2 superintendents and 2 directors and for
Business.
Business or special education. So probably take the one with the highest salary and, build it off of those numbers, but you'd be eliminating the others. So yes, there would be positions lost there. If your question, Deb, is in terms of staffing, I think that there would not be a lot of staff gone. We use the example of, well, Pioneer has a librarian, Gil Montague has one. No, we're still going to need a librarian in each of the schools, the middle school and high school. So I'm not sure. Same thing for physical education. You know, you have a teacher at Pioneer, a teacher at Gil Montague. There's going to need to be that position in both of those. So that could be a conversation that Mark might have questions about once he looks at this, if there seems to be a duplication at the instructional level. But I think we've operated on the premise that we want to identify what that would be, and we would apply that to the, I'll say, filling the gap in the salary schedule and the benefit schedule, so that we, you know, have an idea of what it would cost if we had the vast majority of instructional positions intact. But I'm certainly open to discussion on that. I see Jennifer Coffin, you have your hand up.
I think Deb had her physical hand up before me, so go ahead, Deb.
I don't know how to do the yellow hand, sorry. And once again, I bring this up because a staff member said it to me. That's why I would like to request that Mark make no reduction in instructional staff in one of his runs, because I think that needs to be clearly compared. If we have 50 total staff now between two schools, then we should have 50 staff excluding central office staff between two schools, and then decided, are there any places? But I would appreciate if it would be done without any reduction in instructional staff right now.
So the scope
That
is
would make sense,
specific,
because that's comparing apples to apples. I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
the scope is specific to central staff,
For reduction.
right? A combined central staff. If you want to expand that beyond that, then that's a change in scope.
I just want to do apples to apples.
Okay,
Yeah, that makes sense, because it's not in our purview to decide what the reductions and instruction would be anyway.
It's actually my hand was raised for to piggyback off of that exactly, is that if the decision was made to move forward and there is a reduction or redundancies in roles, is that extra cost to bring in someone to help, or is that just the powers that be go ahead and make the decision? Like, is there a formal process we have to think about? Is that out of our realm?
I think the way to answer that would be, new school committee would have to be formed for the district, and they would make those decisions. So it would not fall on us.
Mark, I have a kind of follow-up question that may be out of the scope, but it's making, I'm wondering if you were to look at the projections that for enrollment, and maybe a 2-year projection, to see how that would impact the assessment regarding Chapter 70 minimum contributions by the towns and so forth. If that's getting way more involved than the scope that we put, or would that be helpful? Because there's been, I mean, even though combining the districts, it's still a small district, and we know that Pioneer this coming year has lost a number more kids than usual to the vocational school, that you would see that. And also with Warwick's departure, they're going to see another dip in their enrollment. And so that could have an impact on, let's say, a year out, to see what that might do to assessment. So your thoughts?
so your scope is requesting assessments based on 6 alternatives, one of which is a single-year foundation enrollment, one of which is a 5-year average of foundation enrollment. So that's already built into the scope.
Super. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Other questions? Yeah. So what do you
Let me-
think,
let me- hold on,
Mark,
let
in
me-
terms of,
Alan, let me
the
interrupt.
timeline? Yeah.
Let me interrupt once. Mark and Matt, do you have any questions regarding the deliverables, or do you see any holes in what we have asked for?
I don't have any questions because over the course of the last 4 years, we've done these calculations for you more than one time. I think we have 3 different studies. So this is very common in terms of these analysis. It's very similar to what we've done in the past. So I don't have any questions at this point in time. I would caution the committee, the board, to make sure they understand the specific scope requested of us. So your expectations are set around that scope and you're not looking for something else.
Right.
Yeah,
and
so
some of
that's,
this-
thank you for that. I would just open it up to members to ask, do you think that town officials would be satisfied with a run of those estimates on what the impact may be for their assessment and their minimum contribution?
Yeah, and I would chime in, Alan, as someone that's on the select board, which is, I think it's going to be up to us to explain to select boards that what we're asking for is basically we're asking them to update the information with the new sort of events that have happened with Warwick. And so we're looking for fresh numbers because what Mark and Matt ran previously is probably a couple of years old now and didn't take that into account. So, but what we need to do is make sure that the select boards understand we should be forwarding the deliverables to them so they understand ahead of time what they're going to be receiving, why they're receiving it, and that no, it's not okay to start asking them to go back and run different scenarios and, you know, look into potentially other ways of deriving assessments. That's really would be discussions among the towns and the town leaders. It's not something to go back at Mark and Matt to say, well, you know, what about this? What about that? So we just need to make that clear.
What
Yeah.
has
Subcommittee marketing in terms of getting information out, not only you know what to expect in the fall, but giving a heads up on what's in the works now, and so that would be a good idea for communication to the boards and as well as a paper article.
Yeah,
Mark
Mark has a thought, so let's let him respond.
Yeah, the one change since we began this journey is the Student Opportunities Act. I think our first study was before the Student Opportunities Act. And what we've seen is those districts with select populations for certain type of students gain tremendously on the Student Opportunities Act. We're also seeing property values increasing significantly since 4 or 5 years ago, which has resulted in higher local minimum contributions. So if you compare what will provide you as a deliverable to when we first started, you may see some pretty hefty changes in some, not all, contributions. You still have the excess of base aid over foundation aid for Pioneer that eats into any gains you might receive in foundation aid from the Student Opportunities Act. We'll see how those numbers flesh out. But that is a major difference between today and when we first started this journey.
And let me ask you, Mark, I mean, you mentioned the property values going up, but with the way the aggregate wealth formula works and the EQV, isn't that, but that's spread out throughout the 351 towns in terms of, so you don't necessarily know, right? I mean, that's because it's an aggregate.
No, what I've seen, Greg, is that I want to say 6, 7, 8 years ago,
Mhm.
2/3 of the districts were above their target contribution.
Oh, correct. Okay, I see where you're going.
And now I think it's reversed.
Mhm.
So that 2/3 of the districts, sorry, 2/3 of the cities and towns are below their target effort. And some are getting 1% and 2% increments, adding to their minimum. Now, again, any district can spend as much money on education as they want, provided that they meet the state's minimum. And we'll see again how that plays out relative to your 6 towns.
All right, I understand now. Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Mark, do you see any issues in terms of your, the expectation on the timeline without, putting undue pressure on you and your son running numbers and doing research? What do you?
Well, I think we're 2 weeks behind in terms of getting started. So you wanted us by July 31, so we'll be around the July 31, and then 2 weeks later, maybe. But that's only a maybe at this point in time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
We've been running behind on everything, so that's nothing.
Any other questions?
Board members have?
I have nothing, no. My ears are open.
And I mean, speaking to that in terms of running late, running behind, Alan, we should be asking DOR if there's a possibility for an extension, which wouldn't be a long extension, but I'm just curious as to whether or not they even grant them. And this is not, necessarily in terms of Mark and Matt's work. It's just looking at the long run for what the, if we're going to do a district agreement after this. So just put that in the back of your mind.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we were to make a recommendation to go forward after we have all the information and we share all that with the town, then our next step would be hiring a consultant to put together a regional agreement for the town to consider. So that would be the next step moving forward if that's what we're doing.
Any other questions? Mark, do you need anything? Do you guys need anything from us in the immediate sense, or are you good?
No, once we get started, then we might need some missing data, but right now, no.
Mark, that tool that you and your son put together, which is pretty amazing. I hope that comes to good use now.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of work. So, thank you for doing that. Okay, if there's no other questions for Mark and Matt, I think we can let them drop off and we can continue on with our meeting. Unless Alan, do you have any reason to keep them here?
No, I'm really pleased that we're very fortunate to have their expertise. I don't know if new members know that Mark was a business administrator and has been mentored to many business administrators and very well respected in the state and does a number of workshops that a lot of administrators take advantage of, including the end of year reporting. And so he's kind of the guru for the accounting part for getting things moving along with DESE. So thank you, Mark, for being able to share all that expertise on our project.
Well, thank you. I will offer this one edit. I've never been a business manager. I am an overseer for one of the regions, but that doesn't qualify me as a business manager.
Thank you for that. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, and also thank Matt for all his expertise, because you know, as Mark points out, he's incredible with all the spreadsheets in Excel. So yeah, we're very fortunate to have you both. So thanks.
I was so amazed at how many tabs he could link together in that document. So you could call different fields up, and it would just ripple right through, and you could see the domino effect and where it was picked up. It was just superior work.
Okay, with that,
Right.
well,
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, and we'll be in touch. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Matt. You take care.
Take care, Ellen.
All right. So next on the agenda, if Alan, you can't see, it's our next forum. So we have Irving set up for next week, which is June 22nd. So we'll be meeting with the Irving School Committee, thanks to Jen Eichhorn sort of passing us off to the right people, which she used to be one of our board members, or was a participant, not a actual official board member, but so we're looking at, and we've been talking with Mary about Warwick and Vernon. Well, I think Warwick, do you have something set up, Alan, for Warwick? It was Vernon.
Yeah,
Really.
no. So Irving is taking care of. And by the way, Greg, did you send the combine the parent letter and the staff letter into one and get it to Mackenzie?
I did.
To make sure that got out in advance of the June 22nd meeting. Is that all set?
Yeah, she has it.
Perfect. That'll be great. So we put it on the Warwick School Committee agenda. They're very interested in having a presentation. I will work with Mary to get a date that to do that, and then I haven't done anything yet on Vernon. And there was a person, staff member, I believe, at the Gill forum that gave her contact information and was interested in seeing how we could set that up. Obviously, it's probably not going to be at the school, so maybe at a library or something, and there can be some kind of a parent chain to inform people. So we will. I'll work on that. Now that this has gotten off the ground. So we have two more meetings left to schedule, and then we'll have met with all the school committees in the area.
So Alan, is this something we need to discuss with Mary in terms of Vernon and that's the other one that was a question mark?
Well, I think her expectation was that she wanted to do that when we put out there that we would be meeting with Irving and would be interested. She immediately wrote back and said, yes, I can be there. So I'll give her that information, and we'll be on a school committee agenda. And
well, that's Irving. I'm asking about Vernon.
I have not arranged a meeting yet, but I think Mary's expectation is that she'd be a part of that. She's brought it up a couple times.
All right, so I'm just thinking in terms of moving forward, we should contact Vernon, and we can contact the elementary school principal. Maybe be the place to start, and reach out to them and see about a meeting maybe with their school committee, and then two. Sometime in the next, month or two, we should get together with Dorinda and Jennifer and just maybe talk about, rolling out how we want to do our communication going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm hoping we could do some of that over the summer.
Yeah.
And put our best thinking together. I should ask this question. We did put money in for engaging a firm or someone with, that expertise and looking at things differently. Is the board on board with us pursuing that and see if we get responses to an RFQ on that initiative?
I am, but I think that we need to do some legwork ahead of time because PR firms are not inexpensive. And we only have about $5,000 for it, which is not going to go far. So what we need to do is do some upfront work to have our content and have an idea of what we think, because they're going to ask us what we think are the channels to pursue, and make sure that we have things put in place and then use them to fine tune it. I think that would be the way to do it. That's just,
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody else has.
The question I'm asking is that would be my expectation. The question I'm asking is the board on the same page with us putting that together with the intent of moving that forward, where we're doing some of the implementation where we can, and we may be asking through an RFQ other pieces of that to be picked up by a promotional whatever we call them, organization, group, associates, whatever they be called.
PR groups.
Because that changes it. If we're meeting as a subcommittee and we know that we're going to be doing the implementation, then that's the end game on that. If we're putting that together with the other, what we just talked about in mind, then that's great. So I don't know if people want to give a thumbs up to which way, if that makes sense, that we'll work to that end of eventually hiring some services to help in that implementation. That'd be good to know.
People thinking, what are people thinking? Michelle?
So what would this PR firm be doing?
Well, this is kind of what I'm thinking, is that we should be doing the upfront work with, at least exploring, like, does Facebook, if we get Facebook, it's easy to create a Facebook account and sort of begin to tie the community in. The question is, is it being effective? Is it reaching the audience we want? It's not going to reach everybody because there's, the demographics for Facebook is usually, people that are a little older, so the retirees in our community I think it will be easier if we go to, to the senior centers, reach out to them. I really see the use of a PR firm is if we decide to move forward with a recommendation, then we're going to be moving into a district agreement. And then I think we're going to really need a PR firm to inform them, because then you're going to have major interest, because it's going to be taken to a town vote. And that's when you see the interest. So I would rather, hold off on the PR until we know if we're making a recommendation. If we are, then we begin to have reaching out to have some conversations first before we even write a grant. Write the deliverables, so we know what the heck we're actually looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Anybody else?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to spend the money up front and we don't even know where we're at yet.
Agree. Wholeheartedly.
Totally. You need to know what your challenges are in order to sort of meet them.
And the first order of business, although it may sound redundant, is the subcommittee, this PR subcommittee, develop a real clear goal of what it is that we hope to accomplish, and so that we stay focused on that, so we can have a conversation about that outcome. And then once we're all set on that, we follow our own marching orders.
Well, and the funny thing is, Alan, is that the original PR committee, which we formed back at the very beginning, had you and me on it. So you and I are on that committee already. I think I have to go back and look to see who else was on it, but if Dorinda and Jennifer would like to be on it, that's, it's sort of our subcommittees have been around 4 or 5, so that actually works out okay.
Young was
I
on.
think, I think Dorinda and Jennifer should be on it. They're of the younger parents, and most of us on this committee don't have school-age children. And I think we need for them to get the information out there as they see best to get it out. I think you're gonna start seeing some movement once we get more numbers as to enrollment. My select board and other people have been talking about that letter to the editor. What was it, 2 days ago or yesterday in the recorder? Did you see, did anyone see that? About
Yes, I
Franklin
saw it. It was very
County.
compelling.
Franklin County graduated 489 students. Springfield graduated 1,000. We have 8 superintendents. Springfield has 1. And I'm starting to hear that from other towns, not in Franklin County, that people are really starting to look at the numbers and what we're paying for. Even though this governor is putting more towards education, it's not going to go that far.
Can I just share? I mean, I think I talked about it. Remember when we had Amy Peretti on?
Yes.
So there's a very good chance that the 8th graders at my high school, at Greenfield High School, are going to go back down to the middle school. So that's 130 students. I think that's what we have this year. Once they go away, we will have at best 300 students in our enormous newish high school, 9th through 12th. Does that make sense to you guys?
What does it?
We will be just as small as Pioneer and Turner's.
I think the building accommodates what, 6?
It accommodates about, I think, 600 to 700.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where did Renee go? Renee has a hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Sorry. I mean, I just want to echo that same sentiment. Yes, I saw that article. Yes, I noticed way back when the tech school presented their budgets, their comments of their business director, and it actually made me think his comment was that they're a great case for regionalization. 19, what is the balance of the high school students in Franklin County that don't attend tech? Like, I think this work has gone on for 4 years and it's already out of date, similar to technology. Like, I think this is past us by. So I'm anxious to call this to a vote and see if we even think this work is feasible any longer, because I think we need to rethink it. I think I don't know, and I'm sure I could look it up and do some legwork on that, but what is the balance of high school students in Franklin County after you take out the amount that go to tech? And they are 19 towns, they have bus routes. You already know the distances, like there's a lot of good information there.
I think you'd find Frontier is possibly sustainable at what they're at.
I'm just saying, what's the balance?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. What I'm saying is, you're right, the balance, Mohawk, Turner's, Pioneer. I'm just tossing in that I think Frontier is sustainable at the number they're at, so they might not be an interest in total regionalization of Franklin County.
yeah, and I'm saying, what about like, and maybe the mileage, the 250 miles that Mohawk alone takes up, it's not feasible, but maybe there's a north and a south, or an east and a west. Like, maybe we go down to 2 high schools instead of whatever number. Like, again, I think this work that we've done is important and we've educated ourselves well, but I think I'm anxious to actually find a solution, and I'm leaning toward this not being it.
Yeah,
Renee, just to follow up on that for a minute, I think that regardless of the size, I think that the information we have regarding the educational benefits, because we've had it for over time from stakeholders, parents, teachers, staff, students, I think that's still going to ring true. I think what we bring to the table, in addition to that, for DESI and for the legislators to understand, is we have a case, a working case of how this impacts assessments and the how it would impact the town's contribution and could contribute when the Student Opportunity Act is up, which is 2026. It may line itself up with the timing of re-looking at that, and maybe then they'd be willing to make some substantial changes to the formula. So I don't know, but there's at least we can point to that and say, if it doesn't go through, here's what here are the reasons why, and document that, and then talk about the financial implications. Bill, please.
Yeah, I just want to note, I kept track of graduation numbers and because it was in the news, and I've also listened to a lot of other topics. I mean, other considerations about school districts and other places besides here. And certainly the argument about too many superintendents is a good one, because if you look at some of the other states, they're all centralized on the administrative level much more than we are. And in the recent news has been a superintendent with 40,000 students in his district. Now, these are places like Texas and Florida, but still there are other denser populations, and the point is not how dense your population is, but how dense the population of superintendents are, and how do you deal with that? But I just want to say, Franklin Tech graduated 123 kids, and whereas Gil Montague graduated 31, Pioneer graduated 48. Of course, Pioneer is losing students with that because they only have 19 coming in. So you have a net deficit of 20 something. Anyway, and Deb mentioned Frontier. Frontier had 79 kids graduate this year. I don't know what their numbers are, but they seem to be a fairly well-stocked student-wise school district on the high school level. Greenfield graduated 71. Anyway, numbers are numbers, but there are issues that joining the two districts together and just saving on the administration may not be enough. And that's all I want to add. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree with Bill that I mean, one of the things we're exploring though is that the state, as we move forward, some of the things that are going on is that they want us to form planning boards for these regionalizations. So as you can imagine, if we tried to regionalize, let's say all of Franklin County, what kind of planning board you would have. And, we have a hard enough time getting a quorum now. I mean, those are the kind of things that need to be pointed out to the state. I think they didn't foresee the hold harmless issue that came up with us, in terms of if the districts combine, that Gil Montague would fall back into hold harmless. Well, it wouldn't be Gil Montague anymore, and it would be the new district, but basically all 6 towns would be now in the district that is in hold harmless, as opposed to one being out and one being in. So these are, I guess I'm trying to stress is that these are really important findings, because we had been told for decades that we need to regionalize, that's the solution. And I don't think it's necessarily not the solution, but I don't think it's necessarily the solution in all cases. I mean, I think we have found that the educational benefits are pretty significant, going even from a very, very small school to a larger school that's still small. I think that's, that's significant, but they're still not, necessarily hitting economies of scale at 330 of a, Greenfield is still going to have some challenges, even being as small as 300 or 350. Whereas if you look around at the schools that are hitting on all cylinders, if you look at even the private schools like Deerfield is 650, looking to expand upward to about 700. So is NMH. They can run very robust programs and teams and athletics and clubs and everything because they have that amount of students. And same thing with tech. I don't know if anyone attended the budget meeting for tech this year, but the amount of times that the business administrator, what's his name? Russ, I think it is, said, Russ said, we're hitting it. We're definitely firing on all cylinders. We're hitting economies of scale in every area. And it shows, now they're looking at building a new $30 million building. So.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. And one of them is to the point about superintendents and stuff, that it's likely that if it were regionalized, one of the issues the state would have to do is change the law, perhaps, about having 3 representatives from every community, because that's going to add up really quick and trying to have a planning board. So they might have to address that piece so it becomes more reasonable. The second part is I'm hoping when we're done our work that we as a board put out a document that makes recommendations based on what we've learned for our legislators and for DESI and for others, so that they benefit from all the work that we've done. And we have clear recommendations as to how they might proceed in going forward. The other thing in terms of one superintendent, yes, you can have one superintendent, maybe special education administrators, but because of the complexity, there's probably going to be whatever you want to call them, assistants or whatever, to have a presence in the district. So that we probably don't want to lose sight of the fact that there will be these sub-level administrative positions to keep that going. And the biggest thing is if communities want to maintain their, I'll use the word fight them, or their, the fact that they have autonomy and they have their own school committees. I don't think that's the case. And I was going to ask you, Bill, when you were doing your research about systems with 150 or 120,000, students, did they have one school committee that, with representation from all of the towns? Am I still on speaker?
I heard you. I doubt it. To answer your question simply, I doubt that they have one school committee. I would think that you'd have a whole reorganization, and probably instead of, you could forego having lots of assistant superintendents by enhancing the responsibilities of the principal of each building. Right now, principals come forward with their budget recommendations every year to the superintendent. That's how the budget process works. So anyway, that's what I would say the answer is the principal and student councils and parent councils become that much more important in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah, I would say, I have a brother and that lives down there. His wife has been a school teacher for decades, and they have many assistant superintendents for these large districts. So it's not like, they have one superintendent, but then there's, often there can be upwards of 8 assistant superintendents because the school district is so large. So
yeah, to Bill's point, it's an opportunity in the restructuring to engage many more stakeholders in the process of educating their kids. So those are good thoughts, and we'll need to pull those forward. I don't want to cut off conversations. I want to be mindful, however, of the volunteerism that you provide. If there's, I'm trying to look at the agenda. I think we've pretty much hit all the targets on our agenda. other than nailing down another date. And if people could send their volunteering themselves to serve on a subcommittee, we could get together and have conversations and then make a determination of when we should set up another full board meeting to share our best thinking. Does that make sense to folks?
When you say subcommittee, are you talking about the PR committee?
Yeah. We get our reconstitution of our PR committee. We have some meetings. We nail some things down. And when we're in a place to bring ideas forward, we would then schedule a meeting with the full board. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but I'm trying to make sure that we have a really focused purpose.
That makes sense to me. I think that can be something where you and me and Dorinda and Jennifer, and if David still wants to be a part of it, we can figure out a time that works for the 4 or 5 of us. And then once we have a plan, we can come back for a full board meeting.
Okay, and we lost Jennifer a while ago, so I hope she doesn't mind we've been volunteering her.
I think she's okay with that one.
Okay. Anyone else have any business that you would like to bring up? All right, hearing none, I just want to once again thank everyone for staying with us and helping us to complete our work. I think we're getting closer to the finish line, and I think we're all looking forward to getting there. So thank you so much for your time this evening and for the many hours you've put in prior to this. So I would, with that, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Well, I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn. I didn't finish. I was leaving that open. Someone want to move that?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Deb.
Oh, perfect. Do your last roll call vote so
Okay.
we conform with the open
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay. Renee?
Yep.
Deb, Loomer,
Yep.
Bill? You're on mute, Bill.
Yes, unmuted.
Deb, Cody,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Dorinda,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
and yes. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us and being part of our board.
Thank you, Alan, Greg.
Happy Father's Day to all your dads.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Yep. Thank you.